Okay, welcome everybody. Let's get this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
DNA. Hudson,
Present.
Pater,
Here.
Larson,
Here.
Schneider, Ramirez, Gallagher.
Here. Okay, we'll go to the next item, Pledge of Allegiance. Should we direct it by the government class? Okay, I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That's 5 points.
Every time I sit in this chair.
Got all the words right.
Until you try to sing it, then you lose it, right? Okay, next on the agenda items is the monthly financial report. Town treasurer, please.
Good evening.
Good evening, council, and mayor. Nothing really to report out of, on this report specifically, but following next week, we will have an update when it comes to some of the revenues as well as, the upcoming project, as we've just received the first, payment request for the park sidewalk. So we'll be reviewing that, hopefully within next week. I don't know if there's any specific questions on these revenues, though. I'm here to address them.
Anybody have anything?
Well, we're going to meet on Wednesday
Mhm.
and we'll go over probably in a little bit more detail and then you can report back Monday. But just for our audience, which we have a nice large audience this evening, typically where are we in our budget process? What percentage? And are there any items that that may be of some concern to you at all at this point?
Yeah, no. Well, right now, we work on a fiscal year, so it's starts in July, ends in June of every year. By now, we should be at the 16.4% of our budget, meaning that out of the 100% of a budget, we should be at 16.4. The only thing is, there's no real issue right now that I'm seeing, as every revenue coming in is coming at what is expected or a little bit more. Some of our revenue sources, as we all know, are a little bit delayed. Some of our taxes are collected for a month behind. So our job here is to just ensure that, you know, the trends are hitting the mark. Still working within the expenditures. As of right now, we have not have anything that's out of sync, which would normally be. In fact, next week, though, we will see our biggest revenue, one of our biggest revenue source that's accrued in October, which is our real estate tax. Those numbers will pop up in the budget, but will not be fully collected until December 5th. And usually by mid-years, when we will look at relook at our revenue sources and also as well as any amendments we have to make. But as of right now, this budget is trending how it should be, how council and staff has prepared it. But yes, there may be a few changes we may want to do mid-year on unexpected revenues.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
What do we have upcoming as far as meals tax with new businesses?
So we do have, I believe, 2 or 3 restaurants that are specifically going to be a full month's worth of collection. When it comes to taxes, as a treasurer, I cannot disclose individual tax revenues, but I can tell you that when we were working on the budget, we didn't really know where those numbers would be at, so we didn't want to predict numbers unknowingly. But we are looking to be in a positive trend when it comes to those coming in. One of the biggest factors, aside from the existing revenues and projects, are going to be our first payment towards the park sidewalk, which will be using ARPA funds that the town has held specifically for infrastructure projects within the town.
Okay, anybody else? Okay. One thing that I've always supported and tried to influence, I think is finally starting to show this year. And that's getting staff out to more of the local government events and workshops, as well as council. It looks like we're starting to get a positive trend this year. Have we badly under budgeted that?
Actually, that's a great point to bring, Mayor. That's something we've been discussing with the finance liaisons. When we worked on this budget, in past, we did not have the staff or the staff to cover office times here. So we were unable to fully take advantage of continuing education or attending these workshops with our fellow localities. Same thing with the council. But this council, we will be reviewing that for the mid-year amendment to address the additional costs when it comes to the council side of attending these government functions and conferences that, only to better prepare you guys when it comes to the government thing of the town. On the staff side, I think we're looking okay. This is going to be the first year that we're able to fully have staff take advantage of attending these courses and as well as getting certified, going for the certifications. So that's something we'll keep an eye on. And I believe we've been discussing and reviewing it with our finance liaisons as well. And the town manager is definitely on top of it as to what she wants to see from the staff as well.
Okay, does that piggyback any questions?
Well, yeah, and maybe town manager might want to talk a little bit about the concept of a policy going forward.
Yes, so we've noticed, and you can see on packet page 3, that we have already expended out all of the town council convention and education line item. So in our financial liaison meetings, we have been reviewing some of these fees that are going towards that line item and coming up with better policy and procedures for future councils to have opportunities to still go out and get these wonderful educational conferences under your belt, go learn more, and how you can best serve your community, but also give an option that we rotate which members get to go. Maybe there's an on year and an off year, or at least have something in place that each of the 6 council members has an opportunity to sign up and, not one person is going every single time and utilizing all of the pot. So we are thinking through what these procedures would read like, looking at our other neighboring jurisdictions of how they handle it. We are looking at the smaller towns. The larger towns and cities, again, with a bigger budget, have a bit more resources that they can handle. So we'll be coming back to our finance liaisons with some recommendations for those procedures. And then hopefully in the new year, when our new council takes seat, that can be something that's included in there.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, future SOPs are incredibly important to me.
Yes.
Yes.
And I mean, we're teed up very well for 2 weeks from today, actually, for 3 of our council members and the mayor to attend the VML conference. So that's the first time Haymarket, to my knowledge, has been able to go with that big of a showing from our council. And that is a wonderful thing for us. So I hope you guys come back with a lot to share. But it should be a really good conference. You'll be there with like-minded individuals and people who serve in a very similar capacity in your town. So.
I think we've reported the mayor to be he's the designee for reporting back.
Yes, a presentation slide deck.
But all kidding
We'll do
aside,
that.
It'll be good.
this is a really good opportunity, especially now that we're having an election. And I think for Matt, I mean, I know you're busy, you're a full-time worker and all, but in the future, it'd be a great opportunity, I think.
Yeah, the irony was I wanted to go. My wife was supposed to be away. Now she's not going to be away, so I could have probably gone, but no. Next time I definitely would like to.
Yeah, definitely. And we
We'll
have the
text the
potential,
entire time.
Perfect.
we do have the potential for 2 new members as well. So that might be an opportunity for them, depending on what we do for new council members in the transition.
January is the newly elected conference for newly elected conference. And it's in
Good.
Richmond as opposed, Glen Allen, I think. close to Virginia Beach.
Oh, good.
It's still a 2-day thing.
Okay. Something to think about. Thank you, Emily.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. Thank you, Roberto. We'll move on. Communications plan discussion.
Sure, I guess I'll take the lead on this. For background, for those in the audience today, one of the things that we are striving to do as a town is get more specific on our communication plan. Speak to a number of items, including the types of communication channels we should use. What are some of the messages that we want to make sure that we get? How do we collect feedback from residents and businesses and our visitors? So this is something that I've spearheaded. So the council, I did circulate as quickly as I could my novel here. But my goal was to take the kind of like what I would call the raw ideas that I had from the last version that I sent out, which really was just kind of like a brain dump in my head. What I've done is try to take the input that I did receive from a couple members of our council. Thank you for those who did meet with me and or provide email feedback. I do appreciate that. And what I'm looking to do now is what I will say is what you have in front of you and what we've reviewed is this is very much a draft. I would say it's not complete right now. I believe firmly that this needs to be a living document. I believe firmly that things are going to change. And one of the things I did call for here was at least an annual review and tried to put a timeline on when that review should be done. I've tried to put in kind of my initial thoughts on different types of communications without going through the specifics of each one, and to try to kind of call out, who might be the people that ultimately are responsible for that, whether that be just general information, whether that be a part of our crisis communication plan, which I have not detailed because I think that's probably something that's better owned and managed by the chief of police. I think he's going to probably have a much better handle on that, and I think we should heed his advice on that. But I did want to. I mean, really, what I'm looking for is feedback. As I put it, I did kind of put this together. There's probably a lot of duplication in it. As I was kind of writing things, as I was thinking about it, going, I feel like I've written this before, as I've taken the information. But I really would like to. The biggest thing I want to know is what are we missing? I want to. I always feel like we're probably missing something. We're blind to something, and that's why I like it as a living document too, so it can be amended. How much more specific do we want to be? To how generic? We can back off this, which I don't necessarily think we should do personally, or we can be a little bit more specific on it. But my big thing is I think we need to get some feedback and start to kind of iterate on what this is going to be, because it is going to be ultimately a policy. I think I do need to meet with staff to discuss some things. I think there's probably some communication channels and tools I'm missing or don't have enough detail around. But I would welcome the feedback from staff as well as from the council. So I'll pause there for any initial questions or comments.
Anybody have anything?
Anybody? You have any comments, Mayor?
Yeah, I like the effort that you took to put into this. Identifying stakeholders, identifying the type of events that need to be communicated, the media that needs to be used, whether it be newspaper, Facebook, or any of the technologies out there for social media is good. And also putting ownership on it. Like you said, with ownership, if you really want to go into detail, you can start creating appendices in which they own the editing of.
Yep. And you'll note that there's the appendices. I did mention that there's kind of placeholders for now. I didn't fill all that in, but that's actually a good point as far as some of the more specifics could be there.
Yeah, so that's all I really have is you created the generalized framework. Now, any type of the details need to be taken ownership by the person tasked for that. That way it alleviates a lot of your time as trying to manage this, since we do have a second job, so to speak.
I like doing this stuff though.
I'm just
Anybody
curious if the staff had any comments so far, or
Not yet. Just taking a look at everything. So we'll take some time to digest and provide comments and feedback and schedule a meeting.
That would be great.
if I could add?
I was just gonna ask, did you
Yep.
send it electronically?
I did.
You did.
Okay, thank you.
I'll forward.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I really appreciate the effort
Mhm.
because it's probably one of the better things we've had with regard to a plan for communications than we've had before.
Mhm.
And getting it down on paper can be difficult at times, but you got to do it because then you can identify where the holes are, right? So, and I really appreciated the fact of the checklist and accountability and responsibilities. I think that's important. So everybody understands what their roles and responsibilities are. And especially the feedback loop and the evaluation. And I'm not sure what some of the measurables are. Maybe we can talk a little bit about that. If you want to now, that's fine, or,
I think what I'd like to do is meet with staff around some of those metrics or the KPIs, because I think, like some of the obvious ones I think of are with the My Haymarket app.
right.
Are we going to put some, I know that we've talked up here a little bit, and there's been conversations about some of those metrics. Is it how many downloads, how many signups, how many accounts?
Impressions.
Yeah, all that. I don't know that we ever really defined what that is, but I know we're going to be updating our website. We've listed that as something that's important to us for this fiscal year. But do we have metrics on how many website visitors we have? Do we have, how do you measure effective communication? It's, is it based upon how many people are in the audience? This is fantastic. But it's, how do you measure that? So I think that's a conversation I want to work with staff on to understand what's already in place and not try to recreate the wheel.
Okay. You want to go ahead? I'll
No,
wait.
no,
All right,
finish.
there were just two other things. I like the fact that you talked about reciprocal, kind of like a two-way street on
Mhm.
communication. That's critical. It's not just top down, right? It's bottom up, so to
Correct.
speak, for lack of a better term. The other thing I think we're going to have to look at with the treasurer and the finance liaisons is how to resource load this from a funding perspective. So we'll have to keep in mind what impact that has on
Mhm.
budgeting, and then
It
the
does.
budgeting next year.
Absolutely.
May I?
Of course.
I think the communications plan always has to be, like you referenced, a living document. So it needs to be living and breathing and constantly changing based on the community and what we are learning. Right. So I appreciate that. I do appreciate applying the app and what we're learning and like layering what we're doing. So I do appreciate that.
Good.
So, yeah.
And I am open for emails, coffee, lunch, whatever, to discuss this.
And I'll tell you what, you guys are talking about a lot of the elements. Got to go to my framework on this that I'd like to build into it. You're putting a life cycle on this. You're putting a cost on it. All of these things could be I look at a document as an asset.
Yep.
And with that asset, you need asset management, which puts a life cycle on it with reminders. So if we had like a master schedule that would pop up alerts for us. I mean, you're starting to go into my framework that I've been
Yep.
preaching for years, but I'll leave it at that because I could really drag this out.
It's okay with
But
me.
you're introducing exactly some of the concepts of like what I was trying to get put in place when I first started a little more than 4 years ago, which it's very difficult to do though because it takes a lot of effort and a lot of nurturing.
This is not an easy effort. I mean, I like taking it on because I just like doing things like this, and I'm very passionate about communications because I've seen the downfalls of very poor communication or poor outreach. And I've already seen just thinking about it more, and I think this council's been very conscious of it without having necessarily the written document. And we've seen an improvement with our relationships with our residents, with our businesses because of that. So
Well, in our strategic planning initiative with the workshop that's coming up, I sure hope you put this as one of your goals.
yes,
Within that packet.
of course.
Good.
Excellent.
Anybody else? Okay. You were definitely making me smile with all the processes involved here. Systems engineering at its best, you know?
You know what I do for a living too. This is my world. So yes.
Okay. I guess on that note, we'll move on then. Next on the list, we got the SUP to
Yes,
address.
just explain to some of the audience members that are here for class. Oftentimes in the zoning ordinance, uses are regulated based on certain design standards or allowable functions. Businesses can apply for an exception or special use permit allowing for something different. Chick-fil-A, our local Chick-fil-A has done that with their drive-through. They have applied to expand the existing drive-through to add more of that bypass lane around the Chick-fil-A. It would replace the landscaping buffer. They would also redo the exit point onto Crossroads Village Boulevard on the north side of the lot. It would also change the traffic pattern for Virginia National Bank into a counterclockwise one-way traffic motion. That application was brought before the Planning Commission this summer and was reviewed. And as noted in the memo on packet page 7, I've attached the movement from the Planning Commission regarding their vote, which was unanimous of recommendation of denial of the application. Additionally, I provided the agenda from the Planning Commission for your review. The objective tonight is to authorize public hearings so we can have proper discussion with the applicant of this application.
That's good to me.
So the process then is give authorization and then both sides can speak at the public hearing?
Yes, and with that as well, once the public hearing is given, ideally in the October work session, which will be as soon as we can, then council has 90 days to review the application or whatever meetings fall within that.
Okay, anybody have any questions?
No.
No.
So,
So the only thing I ask is council give directive.
Directive
Authorized.
on the
public
hearing.
announcement.
Yeah, public hearing.
October work session.
Yeah. when-
28th.
So scheduling 28th. Dias, everybody happy with
Works for me.
Works for me.
coming in at 6 o'clock as opposed to 7 and all that stuff?
Yep, good.
Sure.
Okay. As directed, put it as a public announcement for hearing on 28th at 6.
At 6?
Isn't that when we normally do the public?
No, it's 7.
Part of the
7?
se- make part of the
Okay, 7.
7.
7 o'clock. Okay.
What's that? You're leaving room for a closed session meeting or something? Is that what you're saying?
She's like, don't bring us in early.
Never know. Okay.
Okay.
So we'll move on then. Discussion of the policy and procedures. I had a request to put this on because we don't have any formalization since the liaison has been left from the police department and HR and dealing with staffing and policing matters. So I said, well, let's put the policies up for review then, since it has been, what, 2-3 years
Mhm.
since we've reviewed it in the past?
We reviewed it in 2022.
So I felt that it would be good to open it up, get discussions on anybody who didn't like our processes or policies or felt they were too loose.
I guess I'll start with just a question.
Mhm.
I know that this rose from some of the recent hires. How do we? I mean, because I'm looking at here kind of what, and I've read what's here, but generally speaking, if we're going to involve a member of the council on a hiring board, how is that decision made currently?
It's very loose. That's why I
Okay.
opened this up. So I thought there was a hole there. But if you guys want to come up with a formalized policy for it, here's a chance for discussion. You done?
And yeah, that was my question.
Okay.
So I might come back to you, but.
Tracy Lynn?
So over the past year, what I have discovered is on several different platforms, if I may say, there should be standard operating procedures. And that is